to deal with the effects of the bacteria, then you isolate infected individuals so that the person does not infect another group of people. For instance, when somebody has conjunctivitis, that's disease that affects the eyes and made the eyes to be yellow. Before you know it, especially among children, the child touches the eye and they are playing, before you know it, every other child that is around, or even adults, get that disease because it is communicable, and they can just, by touching, the mother carries, the father carries, the younger ones, the elder ones of the child carries. The disease just starts getting, it just spreads. So one way to prevent the spread of disease is to isolate infected individuals. If it's animal, you put them in the quarantine. If the disease is very, very destructive, like we had Ebola virus in Nigeria some time ago, they took those people that had contact with the Ebola patients to a quarantine. They were checking on them, and then the doctors that were taking care of them were extra careful. So that's a way of preventing disease, because if they did not treat them like that, they will infect the whole nation. So isolate infected individuals. Another way of controlling pathogens is to get vaccinated or inoculated. Or this immunization that they bring some drugs that works against that virus or the bacteria that they are trying to prevent. So that's vaccination. Then another way of controlling pathogen is health education. That's part of what I'm doing now. You get educated about, okay, this is the way to take care of your body, do this to avoid this. So when there is education, there is enlightenment on how to take care of your health, you can easily prevent pathogens or control them. Another way of controlling pathogens is to preserve your food very well, so that microorganisms don't get there. And how do you preserve your food? You can fry those that are friable, add salt, dry it, so that microorganisms cannot grow on your food before you consume them. Because when you consume infected food, surely you become infected. Another way of controlling pathogens is to sterilize your materials. You are using some materials, sterilize it, use hot water, use methylated spirit, use some chemicals that can help you sterilize your instruments. Then another way is to use disinfectants and antiseptics. Use disinfectants and antiseptics to prevent and to destroy those pathogens. Now we talk about immunity. What is immunity? Immunity is the capacity of an animal to resist development of an infective disease through natural or artificial means. The capacity of an animal to resist the development of an infective disease, that is the capacity of the body of an animal to resist the spread of an infective disease through natural or artificial means, is what is called immunity. When you say you are immune against something, that is, that disease cannot affect you, cannot cause your body to break down. And resistance is produced by antibodies. I mentioned what antibodies are the other time. Antibodies are chemicals that the body produces against any intruding microorganism. That is, any intruding infection. When a microorganism or an infection is coming to the body, it's the antibodies that rise up to fight against such microorganism and defend the body. So they are like the security or the defense agents of the body. So those are antibodies. Then immunity can be inherited, that is, it may be natural or acquired. Natural immunity. When we say an immunity is natural, it might be born with, that is, the mother might have transferred that immunity to the child. Then it possesses antitoxin. When somebody, maybe the mother during pregnancy or something, the mother had the immunity in her own system. So the baby also automatically sometimes carries that immunity against that kind of disease. That's what we call natural immunity. While acquired immunity is made possible by antibodies that produce bacteria or viruses. Acquired immunity can be active acquired immunity or passive acquired immunity. Active acquired immunity is a naturally acquired immunity after recovery from attacks. For instance, naturally acquired immunity, when a particular disease has attacked a body, an animal or a human being for instance, and after a while the person recovers, such kind of disease cannot bring that person down again, because the body has already developed resistance against such disease. And such kind of disease, you have measles, smallpox. When somebody has smallpox and the person is able to sail through and he recovers, when that attack of smallpox is coming another time, it cannot affect the person because the body has already developed resistance against that virus. So that is what is called naturally acquired immunity. It is acquired after recovery from attack of diseases such as cholera, smallpox, and measles. Then another, also active acquired immunity can be acquired artificially by immunization. Children are taken for immunization for 9 months, different stages. So, and they immunize children against poliomyelitis, measles, cholera, hepatitis, and the rest. So, the body can also be immune against all diseases. So, when somebody has been immune against hepatitis and hepatitis disease is coming against the body can fight. The antibodies in that person's body can fight against such kind of diseases. Then, passive acquired immunity. Passive acquired immunity can be naturally established across mother to fetus. That is, the immunity was transferred from the mother to the child. Another way that passive acquired immunity is acquired is artificially by injecting serum containing antibodies. When you are being injected with a serum that contains the antibodies that will fight against all disease, you will become passively immunized against such disease. Now we're talking about towards better health. How can our health be better? What are those things that we need to do to make our health better? First is refuse disposal. How do you dispose your refuse? Refuse is dry waste. Your paper, your nylon, waste that you produce around, you bought this. The dry waste, that's what we call refuse. How do you dispose it so that you can have a better health? First is by incineration. That's taking it to a particular machine that takes it away from the environment so that you don't just litter it around. Another way of refuse disposal is controlled dumping. That you are not just going on the road, you drop nylon here, you drop paper there, and everywhere is litter. No, there is a particular place or there is a particular waste bin that you are dropping your refuse. So that's another way, so that everywhere is not just litter. Another way of refuse disposal is by composting of vegetable refuse. For instance, your plant materials, maybe your vegetable remains after cooking, or those things that can be degradable easily, you can bury them in the ground, and after a while you discover that they have decayed and turned into compost that you can even use for your farmland. So that's composting of vegetable refuse. Another way of refuse disposal is by recycling it. In advanced nations, waste products are used to manufacture some other things like plastic, nylon, and the rest. So they are being recycled to form another product entirely. So it's not just a waste, and it's not constituting nuisance to their environment. Now we talk about sewage disposal. Sewage is your liquid waste, the water you use in the kitchen, every liquid that you use, every waste that comes from the kitchen, that comes from the toilet, your bathroom water, your feces and urine, those are sewage. So how do we dispose them in a healthy way? First, pit latrine. Pit latrine is the ancient latrine that is being used, that they dig ground some meters into the soil, and that's where they drop all those things. They defecate and pour water, but most times in pit latrine, water is being prevented. Even though the water the soil will absorb the water after a while, but so that the pit does not get filled on time, it's only fecal materials or feces that are allowed in there, and they are covered so that we don't have houseflies and other vectors taking diseases into the environment. So that's pit latrine. We also have bucket latrine. That's a bucket unlike the pit. So this one is bucket, but it's still for the same purpose. Then you have the water closet. That's what's common now, where there is a water system. After you use the toilet, you flush it. The water goes into the septic tank and the soak away. Then we'll be talking about habitats, and basically the marine habitat. Habitat is a place where an organism lives. We've talked about that in our basic ecological concept, that habitat is a place where an organism lives. So talking about marine habitat is just a place of living in the water. A place of living that is in the water area. That's what marine habitat is all about. Marine habitat contains the oceans and the saltwater lakes. The oceans and the saltwater lake. Then the marine habitat is made up of the shore and the open sea. There is temperature fluctuation, which is very small.